We have some fine people here that are going to talk a little bit about what we do here at the courthouse, what it's all about. It's probably good that you haven't been here. That means you haven't been arrested or gotten any tickets. So that's good. So today I have Marv Hankinson, who is going to talk a little bit about what we do, and then we're going to do our pretend mock trial. So give Marv a big round of applause. Oh, order in the court. The Honorable Mr. Marv Hankinson, Judge presiding.
And you all have to
please. All rise.
You all may be seated. This morning we will tell you a little bit about the court. Every town has a court. This is called a local court. But every case that's, no matter how serious, starts here and may be sent to another court. So if you were to get in trouble for anything, you would come here first. The judge would make a determination whether the crime or whatever happened would go on here or if it would be sent to a higher court. So we welcome you here this morning. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you have, and then we'll proceed with our trial. Does anybody have any questions?
I did.
Is that Mr. Dumpty is suing the king for a faulty wall. Now you all know Humpty Dumpty and who Humpty Dumpty is?
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody here who doesn't know Humpty Dumpty? You never heard of Humpty Dumpty? Humpty Dumpty was an egg. And he sat on a wall, and he fell. And when he fell, he got injured. And all the king's men and all the king's horses couldn't put Humpty together again. So he's suing because he fell off the wall and got injured. Now, do we have a jury?
Yes. I'll start with the plaintiff's counsel. That's Ann and Skylar, so you guys are right here at this table. And then we have the defendants, which is Diana, and I didn't have a name for the next one. Humpty is Emma. Okay, Humpty is Emma. So Emma should actually be on this side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have Dr. What's his full name? Dr. Egg. Dr. E. Dr. E is Derek. Where's Derek? Okay. And then the old man haggis is Jackson. Okay, just everybody needs, you need this so you know what to read. And then we have the king is Chris. Chris, you're the king. You can stay right there. And then Fan Moth is Owen. Where's Owen?
Right there.
Oh, I was looking right at you. There you go. And then Wardhead is Caden. Is Caden here?
No.
Oh, so we need somebody to be Warhead. And then we have you. No, where's Charlotte? Charlotte, she is the foreperson. So we need the jury now. So I need where does now here at this local court you don't have a jury. and a place for the jury to sit.
Well, that's not correct.
Oh,
No. Some things, we have a jury of 6 for minor violations, like misdemeanors. With that jury, the court clerk always prepares the courtroom to have 8 chairs over it. Because when you have a jury of 6, you have 6 jurors and 2 alternates. Sometimes during a court case, if a case is extended or if an emergency came up and we lost one of the jurors for some reason or other, we would have one of the alternates fill in. Now, are there any questions about that?
no, so I need 6 jury people over here in these chairs. One who doesn't have a paper. So you're a jury, Hannah, your jury, Aaron, your jury, Charlotte, your jury.
Yes,
What's a
Your
four-person?
a 4-person?
That's the one that, the jury person that is
That's
gonna
the
give
foreman.
their results.
That's the foreman of the jury. In other words, normally, let me explain to you. Normally, when you're picking a jury, they question the people on the jury.
Right.
Both sides have an opportunity. At the end of the questioning, the people will go into chambers with the judge. If they have an objection to the person, they can tell the judge, we would like that person excused because of, and then they would give the reason.
Did that part?
Okay, well, number one, I'd like to thank you for serving on the jury. Serving on a jury is one of the most important things we do in a democracy. And your job today will be to listen very closely to the people that are going to provide testimony. And at the end of it, you will determine what the truth is. And you will make your judgment. My duty, on the other hand, is to rule on the law. If there is anything that cannot be presented, or if people are providing evidence that doesn't need to be there or shouldn't be there, the judge will explain to people that that can't be done. So the 6 of you, when this is all over, will have to go away and decide which one of the people are going to prevail in this case, or are going to be the winner. So at issue today is that Mr. Dumpty is suing the king because he thinks the wall was faulty. So he believes that his injury was the result of the king not doing his duty or keeping his wall well prepared. So, moving along here, is the plaintiff ready?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We have, this is Humpty Dumpty. She's Humpty Dumpty.
I'm supposed to be over there.
Yeah, so we got a little confused.
So then shouldn't she actually be sitting over here then? The plaintiff sits over here. Humpty Dumpty.
No, the plaintiff.
Part of the council.
Oh.
She didn't want a reading part, so she's part of the council.
She stays, Skylar stays there.
Skylar stays here too then.
I'm lost. And you just did it by yourself. I was
Well-
supposed to be the defendant. You were.
So you're representing the king?
Yeah, you're representing the king.
Isn't that supposed to be the king?
You're just gonna read this part.
You're gonna take a seat here.
Chris. You're a little mixed up.
So you're part of council.
It should be just the opposite.
Is the plaintiff ready for,
On this thing.
well, the plaintiff is about to call their witnesses.
Okay. Plaintiff's counsel.
Yes, my lord. I am here with my co-counsel, which is Skylar. We are acting on behalf of the plaintiff, Humpty Dumpty, in this matter.
I don't have. Just, yeah.
Yes, my lord, I am here by myself. I am acting on behalf of the defendant, the king, in this matter.
So now we turn the page. Yeah, you did review most of this, Judge.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go right ahead to the plaintiff's
Yeah.
counsel.
Go right to the plaintiff's counsel.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My lords and ladies, we intend to prove that the defendant, the king, was negligent as he was reckless of the consequences of his act by not making the wall suitably safe to sit on, resulting in the serious injury to the plaintiff, Humpty Dumpty. To support the case, we intend to call the following witnesses: Humpty Dumpty, Dr. Beaton Eggs, and Old Man Haggis. Humpty will describe how his pleas for a suitable wall were ignored and how he was forced to sit on an unsuitable wall. He will also describe the incident, the injuries sustained, and the lengthy recovery period. Agopedic surgeon Dr. Beaton Eggs will describe the cost of the actual medical expenses. I lost my spot. He shall also give details of the severe injuries. Old Man Haggis will describe the incident on the wall from his point of view, as well as the subsequent treatment of the pain and suffering that the plaintiff, we now wish to call our first witness, the plaintiff Humpty Dumpty.
Okay, now, the witness normally will come up here, you would come up here to testify. Okay?
Oh, the witness. Humpty Dumpty, I called you.
Humpty. Here's a question I wonder nowadays. Now, they used to swear on a Bible. Is that still,
They still say the same thing, but they don't use the Bible.
okay. So please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please be seated, right here.
Please state your full name and address for the court.
I'm Humpty Dumpty and I live in Carolina.
So you can see him.
Yeah, will you read?
This is Judge.
It's all right. She's
Okay,
already seated.
can I ask you a few questions? How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
What is your current job?
I own an egg shop.
Do you enjoy sitting on walls?
Yes, it gives me lots of pleasure to be able to climb up inside of a wall. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Are you afraid of heights, Mr. Dumpty?
Not in the slightest bit. Never have been and never will be.
Once you had sat on every wall in the land and needed a new one, what did you do?
I went to the king and kindly asked him if he would be able to build a new wall.
Was there anything specific you wanted to be done with this new wall?
Yes. I asked the king if he would make this wall suitably shaped for an egg to be able to sit very comfortably on it.
And what did the king say in return?
Well, he was very rude. He swore a bit too. First of all, he laughed and said no. I asked him why not. The king said he didn't want to waste his money on one stupid wall that that would make his land uglier just to accommodate one stupid fat egg. He then ordered two of his servants to throw me out of his castle. They hesitated at first, but when they got yelled at, they didn't have to be told twice.
And what was the king doing while you were being taken out of his castle?
He was laughing really hard and always repeating the words, "That fat, stupid little egg, a wall for himself? Ha 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 ha."
That stupid little egg, huh? Did he ever treat you that way before?
Well, the last time I asked him for something, I was told that it would be done within the hour, and miraculously, it was.
And what did you do next?
Well, I was feeling sort of blue, so I went out and climbed my favorite wall. I started to relax, but as I lay down on the wall, I slipped and fell out because the wall was considerably shaped for an egg like me.
So the wall was no good?
It was really bad. It was damaged and looked like a car had crashed into it.
Who did this wall belong to?
The king, it's his property.
Mr. Dumpty, will you please describe your injuries?
Well, I broke every single bone in my body. I couldn't walk, run, or do anything normal for several months. Luckily, we eggs are easily put together again under the surgeon's blade, so I was only semi-paralyzed. I also had to go around in a wheelchair for 3 weeks after the recovery period, as I still felt very weak.
And how much did this whole ordeal cost you?
Well, my medical bills alone came to $78,000, and I'll have to pay $5,000 every month for the rest of my life.
Thank you, Mr. Humpty. No further questions, my lord lady. Or my lord.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine?
Yes, my lord. Come up there. This wall that you climbed on wasn't your property, was it?
Now,
You were trespassing when you sat on the wall, isn't that correct?
the king always lets me sit on his walls. He has never told me not to.
That wall is your favorite, is that correct?
Yes, I've climbed it many times.
Many times? How many times, Mr. Dumpty?
Oh, I've been climbing that ever since I was little. I've probably climbed it a couple hundred times.
Have you ever fallen from it before?
No, I've never fallen from that wall before this incident.
Were you using any protective gear when you fell from the wall?
No, I used to wear a helmet, but that was when I was a kid.
You claim that the wall was damaged.
It was. There were several sections where the bricks were crumbling.
If that wall was destroyed, why did you climb it?
I didn't think it was dangerous.
Aren't you responsible for your injuries by sitting on the wall?
No, it's the king's fault. It's his wall.
No further questions, my lord.
Judge, you may step down, and Mr. Dumpty, you may call your next witness, please.
We'll call Dr. Beaten Eggs to the stand, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do?
Please be seated.
Please state your full name and spell, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Dr. Beaten Eggs, E-G-G-S.
You may be seated now.
Dr. Eggs, was Humpty Dumpty your patient?
I am a surgeon with a specialty in agapitic surgery. I have been one for over 13 years. I am the vice president at Carroll Hospital. I am also a sitting member on the inquiry committee of the Carroll Land College of Physicians and Surgeons.
And Dr. Eggs, was Humpty Dumpty your patient?
Yes.
Dr. E, what kind of physical conditions was Humpty in before you treated him?
Humpty was in very good physical condition before I treated him. He had only seen a doctor once before, and it was only for a cold. Climbing walls gave him great upper and lower limb strength.
Interesting. Would you say that Humpty Dumpty would have a good chance in a promising athletic career?
Yes, I think that if Humpty wanted, he would have a great athlete. He would have been a great athlete. Now, though, because of his sustained injuries, He will never climb walls again or become an athlete.
And what injuries did Humpty sustain?
Every bone in Humpty's body was broken. He was going to yoke to death if he wasn't patched up quickly. A lot of his white was missing and 40% of his shell was gone. Only one finger bone remained unbroken. Unfortunately, the only way to treat him was to break this bone as well. So I did what I had to do.
And how did you treat his injuries?
I had to operate on his body to stop the yoking, and then I had to put 6 pins in 56 different locations to keep his bones together. They will have to remain there permanently. To replace the missing white, I had to find a donor quickly. Luckily, Old Man Haggis was willing to let me use his chicken eggs. Then to put back together again, I used super duper Carol glue. I had to give him a wheelchair, as it was impossible for Humpty to walk for several weeks.
How did Humpty act when he was, what was he saying during your treatment?
Well, prior to and during the surgery, Humpty was unconscious, but when he woke up, he was in a lot of pain. He was always mumbling something about getting back to the king. Humpty seemed very angry and when I released him from the hospital, he was yelling that he was so angry with the king. Later, when he was in the wheelchair, he was very quiet and always had a sad look on his face. I believe that he was under a lot of stress and so was very depressed.
Tell me, Dr. E, how much did Humpty end up paying for his medical expenses?
Well, Humpty paid about $78,000 for his medical expenses, which included the surgery, the pins, and the wheelchair. Now he is going to have to pay another $500 a month for checkups and mandatory pin changes. That will be for the rest of his life.
Thank you, Mr. Haggis. No further questions, my lord.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine?
Yes, my lord. How many patients have you treated with Humpty's condition?
Not that many. The kind of injury is pretty rare.
Isn't it true that Humpty was your first patient who fell from a wall?
Yes, but I have many eggs who have fallen and needed surgery.
Did you make any recommendations to Humpty regarding how to stay safe?
Yes, I told him that he should refrain from climbing walls, or if he does, he should wear some sort of protective gear.
So in your opinion, would protective gear have prevented Humpty Dumpty's injuries?
I do.
Objection, my lord. Dr. Egg's expertise is medicine, not protective gear.
Well, surely the doctor can give an opinion on effectiveness of the protective gear as he recommended it.
The objection is overruled. Please answer the question, Dr. Egg.
Partially. He wouldn't be in the condition he is now, but his shell is very fragile and probably would have sustained injuries.
Thank you, Dr. Eggs. No further questions, my lord.
You may step down, Dr. Eggs. Plaintiff counsel, you may call your next witness.
We call Old Man Haggis.
Hey, where's my card? All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
State your name.
I am.
Old Man Haggis, towards Bob.
Right there.
I am Old Man Haggis. Haggis.
You may be seated.
Mr. Haggis, how are you related to Humpty Dumpty?
friend. I knew him since we met him in grade 1 at Carroll Elementary School. We now share a large house and a 15-acre estate.
Where were you when Mr. Humpty fell off the wall?
Yes, I was in the vicinity when Humpty fell off the wall. I was sitting on the grass and Humpty just fell. He fell onto the other side, and I jumped over the wall, and as it wasn't very tall. He was lying on the other side. His shell was broken, and he was losing his yelp fast.
What happened next?
I ran home quickly to call the ambulance. It wasn't far, and when I was back within 3 minutes. The ambulance came quickly, and I accompanied Humpty to the hospital.
And why do you think Mr. Humpty fell from the wall?
Objection, my lord. The question calls for speculation.
Mr. Haggis has enough knowledge of the incident to answer.
Objection sustained. Counsel, please rephrase your question.
Was there anything wrong with the wall?
Yes, it was pretty
Dilapidated.
dilapidated. There were bricks missing everywhere. It was not in good repair at all.
How did Humpty's injuries affect your personal life?
He needed lots of help while he was in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks. I had to help him get around after he got out of the wheelchair. He wasn't very comfortable walking, so I had to be at his side. It was okay though. Humpty was a very good friend of mine.
Does Humpty have any lasting injuries from this fall, other than the pins?
Yes, he walks with a slight limp and sometimes stays on his feet.
During his recovery, what would Humpty do during the day?
Humpty would just try to relax or sit comfortably. Most of the time, though, he was racked with pain, able to stop himself from crying out and screaming.
Thank you, Mr. Haggis. There are no further questions.
Defendant's counsel, would you like to ask Mr. Haggis any questions?
Yes, my lord. Are you and Humpty very good friends?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you watch out for each other a lot?
Yes, we are aware where the other one is.
Do you find anything exhilarating in climbing walls?
No, I personally am scared of heights. I do not enjoy climbing onto any sort of elevated area off the ground.
Do you always go with Humpty when he climbs on walls?
Occasionally. As I said before, I am afraid of heights, but sometimes I watch Humpty.
On the day in question, did you see a sign on the wall Humpty was climbing?
Yes,
What did it say, Mr. Haggis?
it said no climbing.
Did Humpty see it?
I pointed it out to him. He said that all of the walls had that sign, and it had never stopped him before.
Have you ever tried to stop Humpty from going out and climbing walls?
Yes, a few times. I gave up soon though, because I could see that there was no stopping him.
Did Humpty know that he was breaking a law by climbing walls?
Objection, my lord. The witness cannot testify to what Humpty knew or knows.
I'll rephrase, my lord. Did you know that climbing walls was a breach of the law?
Yes, but it was a stupid law.
Did you tell this to Humpty when you attempted to prevent him from climbing walls?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Haggis. No further questions, my lord.
You may step down, Mr. Haggis. I now call on the defense counsel to make their opening statement.
My lord, we intend to prove that the defendant, the king, had no intent to injure the plaintiff, Mr. Dumpty. His injuries were sustained during an act of free will, and so the king was not responsible for them. Humpty knew that climbing this wall was against the law and dangerous. To support the case, we intend to call the following witnesses. His Majesty the King will tell us why a new wall was not needed in his country, as well as why he did not heed Humpty's pleas. Squire Fanmoth will describe the content of Humpty's plea, as well as some comments which were not described by the plaintiff. Finally, Sir Warthead shall describe the incident on the wall and also tell us how Humpty completely disregarded a sign prohibiting climbing up and what really happened at the scene of the accident. We now wish to call our first witness to the stand, the defendant, His Majesty the King.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and address to the court.
I'm king of the live in
King
the
of Carolland.
I have been ruling for 4 years now.
And how did you meet the plaintiff, Mr. Dumpty?
Well, I was just lounging around in my castle one day, and he came barging through the doors. Usually my guard would have stopped him, but they thought that they would break his shell.
What did Mr. Dumpty want?
Well, he was complaining about my walls. I take pride in my walls, and he was insulting them. He said that they could not fit eggs on them, and they wanted me to build a new one just for him.
Is this a common request?
Some people ask for walls, but I have never had someone ask to build a wall suited for eggs. So I asked Mr. Dumpty to leave.
What happened next?
Mr. Dumpty was very stubborn, and kept demanding that I build him a wall. I started to laugh at him, thinking it was a prank. But after a while, I got my guards to see him out.
When was the next time you heard from Mr. Dumpty?
I had completely forgotten about him until he sued me.
Why did you refuse to build a new wall for Mr. Dumpty?
He was being very selfish. I am glad to build walls for good reasons, but he didn't have one.
How many walls do you have in your country at this point?
I have over 200 walls right now, and I'm not planning to build any more.
What is the general purpose of your walls?
The walls in my country are only designed for bordering fields and are there to mark a farmer's property. I did not ask my archers to design them for climbing for an egg or for eggs.
Did you give any advice to Mr. Dumpty?
Yes, I told him that he should not climb my walls and was against the law. I also suggested that he build a wall for his own purpose on his own land.
How old are the walls in your land?
Some of them are over 100 years old, but mostly they are quite new. In my first year alone, I built 60 new walls. The one Humpty had his accident on only 2 years ago.
Do you maintain your walls regularly?
Oh yes, it is very important to me. I have many workers who go all over Carolina to first inspect the walls and then make any repairs if needed.
Has there been any work done on the wall in question?
No, I am perfectly fine, except that Humpty demanded it partly in the fall, so we had to replace the wall, part of the wall.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I have no further questions, my lord.
Plaintiff's counsel, do you wish to cross-examine the witness?
Yes, my lord. The wall that Humpty Dumpty fell from was never repaired until after the accident, correct?
Yes.
But you claim the damage was caused by Humpty's fall.
That is what seems most
most probably.
Had the wall been inspected before?
Once.
When?
Every wall gets inspected 1 year after it's built and then every 2 years after that.
So the wall was inspected 1 year prior to Humpty's fall.
I suppose so.
How do you know that the wall was not damaged prior to Humpty's accident?
That's what the repairman told me.
So isn't it entirely possible that the damage caused Humpty's fall and not the other way around?
Possibly, I guess.
No further questions, my lord.
You may step down, the defendant may call the next witness.
We call Squire Fanmoth to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear that evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Squire Fanmoth. I am Squire Fanmoth. Fanmoth.
You may be seated.
Squire Fanmoth, where were you when Mr. Humpty came in to plead for this new wall?
I was in the throne room, hiding behind the pillars, just as we all do, waiting for summons from the king. I distinctly heard what both the king and what Mr. Humpty said.
Can you please tell us what you heard?
Well, I couldn't see anything, but I heard a lot of yelling back and forth, as well as some swearing.
Is this all you heard?
No, it isn't. I heard the king say that he doesn't need any more ugly walls in the country. And I also heard that Mr. Dumpty was muttering under his breath. What was he saying?
What was he saying?
He was saying that he would get back at the king, even if it took him forever. He also said that he would never forget this.
What happened next, Squire Fanmoth?
Well, I was ordered to take Humpty away. As I was dragging him out, I listened as he screamed that he would get back at me, even if it took him forever.
Thank you, Squire Fanmoth. No further questions, my lord.
And yes, counsel, do you wish to cross-examine?
Yes, my lord. Squire Fanmoth, you have testified that you heard Mr. Dumpty muttering threats under his breath. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
How close were you to Mr. Dumpty when you heard this?
Oh, about 4 feet away.
So you also said that both the king and Mr. Dumpty were yelling at each other, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Then how would it be possible to hear him when the king was yelling at him at the top of his voice?
I know I heard him. I know I did.
Would you say that it is possible to hear someone muttering under their breath while someone else in the room was yelling at the top of their voice?
I suppose so.
The king is your employer, is that correct?
Yes, he is.
Did he ask you to come speak at the court for him today?
Yes, he did.
Aren't you afraid of the king?
Objection, my lord. This question is not relevant.
It is relevant to the issue of the credibility of this witness.
Objection overruled. You may answer the question, Squire Fanmouth.
I guess so. Pretty much everybody is. He gets really angry.
Were you afraid to not come to court today?
Yes.
Probably afraid enough to lie?
Objection.
Withdrawn. No further questions.
You may step down, Squire Fanmouth. Counsel, call your next witness.
We call Sir Warhead to the stand.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name, your full name, and spell your last name for the record.
Sir Warhead.
WORTHEAD.
You may be seated.
Sir Wardhead, could you please tell us what you saw on the wall?
I saw Mr. Humpty appear on the top of the wall. He looked like he had just won an Oscar or something, because he was jumping all over the place like a mad little grasshopper. I was watching the little run when suddenly he stopped. He looked a bit confused, and then he suddenly fell off the wall. I saw this tiny little hand grab air as he flew down the side. I couldn't see.
What did you do after you saw this event?
Well, I was a bit confused, because I knew that the climbing on that wall was forbidden. I also knew, though, that the little runt must really be hurt. After debating with myself for a few minutes, I decided to quickly go and tell the king, and I dashed over and helped Mr. Humpty.
Is this what you did?
Yes, it is. The only problem was that when I got back to the wall, he was gone. All I saw was a lot of egg yolk and white.
What did you think of this incident?
Well, I thought of going to the sheriff and telling him that Mr. Humpty Dumpty was trespassing, but then I was called for duty, so I didn't have time.
Did you notice anything strange about the egg that you saw on the wall?
Well, he did look kind of drunk.
Objection, my lord. The witness is speculating.
The witness is merely stating what he saw.
Objection sustained. The witness will only testify to what he heard or saw, and not what he inferred.
Thank you. No further questions, my lord.
Plaintiff's counsel, do you wish to cross-examine?
Yes, my lord. Mr. Wardhead, you said you saw Mr. Dumpty climb the wall, didn't you?
Yes, that's correct.
How many times have you seen Mr. Dumpty before?
Once or twice.
So is it possible that you saw a completely different egg fall over the wall?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Tell me, was the egg you saw wearing any safety equipment?
I think so, maybe.
No further questions.
Thank you, Sir Worthhead. You may step down. Now, counsel, call your next witness.
That concludes the defendant's case, my lord.
Thank you, counsel. Are you prepared to give the closing statement?
Yes, my lord.
Yes, my lord.
All right, then you may begin.
Thank you. My lord, today we have proved that Mr. Dumpty is not at fault for his injuries. The king should have taken more consideration into the construction and maintenance of his wall. Earlier, we showed you that the king never thought about whether his wall was safely constructed. We proved that the king carelessly made the wall much too high and narrow for an egg to sit on. As 40% of the wall climbing egg population lives here in Carolland, should there be some respect for them? If the wall had been lower and wider, Mr. Dumpty would have likely not sustained all the present injuries. If the wall wasn't crumbling and wasn't in disrepair, Humpty would have not been injured. However, Mr. Dumpty's injuries are serious, and he is in great pain. He will remain in pain for a long time, perhaps even for the rest of his life. He is suing the defendant for negligence for his injuries, which have created very expensive hospital bills for Humpty. Thank you.
Defense may now proceed.
The plain and simple truth is that the king is not liable for Mr. Dumpty's accident. Mr. Dumpty is liable. The wall belongs to the king and was built the way the king desired. He needed to build his wall in that particular way for his own purposes, not for people like Humpty to walk on. He could never have expected that Mr. Dumpty would lack the common sense to keep off the wall. Mr. Dumpty, being an egg, is a very fragile person. He would be expected to know the consequences should he fall off a wall. As you know, eggs break easily when they fall, and Mr. Dumpty completely ignored this fact. Secondly, eggs are round. This would result in giving Humpty very bad balance. The king not only presumed that Mr. Dumpty would not walk on the wall for fear of falling, but it was against the law for Mr. Dumpty to do so. This lawsuit is just an attempt to get back at the king. Humpty was angry when the king refused to build a new wall. The evidence shows that Mr. Dumpty was drunk and that he wasn't wearing any safety equipment. This accident was not the king's fault. It happened as a result of the carelessness of Mr. Dumpty. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that concludes the evidence given by both sides. You must find the defendant liable if his conduct was reckless or the consequences of his acts. The king must exercise reasonable care, and that is for you to decide based on the evidence. The law of negligence is clear, states that if the defendant is found guilty of the charge, then he or she shall pay for the sum of money that the jury decides. This money should compensate for the loss or damage suffered by the plaintiff if the jury finds the defendant not guilty. Then this case will be dismissed. The defendant in our case, the king, has been sued for negligence in the construction of the wall resulting in Mr. Dumpty's injuries. Mr. Dumpty is suing the king for compensation for his losses, damage, pain, suffering, and hospital bills. You must now make a decision based on the evidence given in the court today, and you will start your deliberation now. Thank you, counsel. We will adjourn until the jury returns with the verdict. Now, normally what...
That's all right, you can stand next to me if you want. So, what do you guys think? You guys are in charge of making the decisions. Is the king responsible for paying those medical expenses? Or do you think that Mr. Humpty Dumpty should have been more responsible and known that the wall was not good for him to be on? You guys have to decide.
The first one. I think it might be Humpty Dumpty. Because his friend said the wall wasn't too high because he was afraid of heights and it wasn't too high. But then at the end they said that the wall was too high.
I think it was Humpty Dumpty because there was a sign and somebody said that they were trying to warn Humpty Dumpty that don't go on the wall, it's not safe and you shouldn't be doing that. And it's against the law. So it's not
You should have done that because if you listened to your friends, you wouldn't have done that.
Right, you gotta listen to your friends.
Like Charlotte said, Andy would have been broken into pieces.
What do you think, Liam?
I think
You think it was the king? The king should be responsible for Humpty's injuries?
yeah, he didn't build the wall that safe. But yes, but I'm also kind of against Humpty too because
Yeah.
he was not obeying the law.
Right, this is why it's hard for a jury, because you see both sides. Like Liam, he sees both sides. What about you? King what? You think he should be responsible for paying Humpty's medical expenses? Okay. What about you, Aaron? Do you think Humpty Dumpty is at fault and didn't pay attention to the signs? Or do you think the king should pay for his medical expenses? You think it was Humpty Dumpty? Well, Humpty Dumpty should be responsible. Okay, so you're a Humpty Dumpty, right? So we got 4 for Humpty Dumpty and 2 for the king. So what happens
Actually,
in
it's kind of
that?
Humpty Dumpty.
You say 5 for Humpty Dumpty.
Because I kind of been saying that Humpty Dumpty. I know Humpty Dumpty wasn't obeying the law,
Right.
but the king should have built the law.
Are you changing your mind now?
He's safe.
You're changing your mind? Okay, so he just changed his mind and he just changed his mind. So now we're all in agreement. Right here. Right here, somebody is going to read, we find the defendant, King Carol Lamb, not liable in negligence for injuries sustained by the plaintiff. Okay.
She wanted it to sit in the chair.
That was a tough
Do
decision,
I have to
wasn't
read
it?
in the chair?
Yeah.
Person. Have you reached a verdict?
So then, she has to stand up, right?
Yes.
You have to stand up when you address the judge.
We find the defense King of Carol Land, not Little of Nylands, for the injuries sustained by the plaintiff Humpty Dumpty.
So you find the king not guilty. Is that correct? All right. In that case, the case against the judge is dismissed, and Mr. Dumpty will be required to pay the king for the legal fees that were sustained here in court. Are there any questions now?